and then the Pledge of Allegiance by Vice Chair Green.
Well, Chair Watson, I'm going to take your advice from earlier today, and I'm going to read a little bit from the land use book
Love it.
from this guy named Craig M. Call, JD. He's
You don't say.
he's pretty awesome. And this is if you haven't had a chance to read through this book, it's a pretty amazing book. So just as I'm going through it again, this newer edition, just I highlighted a couple little sections here that I think are apropos for us to think about as we do our jobs up here. He starts out in his preface by saying, for some of us, land use planning is a career. I think of Scott, Ryan, others. An evolving process about how to manage change. For others, like most of us, land use planning is like a transaction, a one-time event or experience involving getting a building permit, subdividing the family farm. Those in small business probably have more interaction with the process than most. And then he says, if you are new to the land use process, perhaps your interest comes from wanting to influence the way some parcel of land near you is being developed. I think all of us have been involved in one way or another in that. I won't read the entire preface. He says land use controls have evolved over time, and they are based on a premise that some would really call fiction. The concept is, notice he says the concept, is that the community together in a democratic process determines what it would like to be. Various proposals for land uses are sorted out and a consensus supposedly develops, which results in a community that all consider to be optimal. And then he says, in reality, a few people care a lot, property owners, citizen planners, who care a lot, property owners, citizen planners often make all these decisions without the quantity or the quality of public input that is anticipated by the theory behind the process. I thought that was interesting, and I think we feel that a lot as we're in our meetings and we're doing our job, that there isn't a lot of public involvement. So I think it would behoove us to encourage our neighbors and those that we know in our circles of influence. Later, he says, if we really want to be engaged in the land use arena and have some long-term impact on what is going on there, which I believe we all do, we need to understand the rules, the process, and the options that are available to the local decision makers. Isn't that interesting that he makes that in his preface, that understanding the rules, the process, and the options available is what is primary in what we ought and what we need to know in order to do our jobs well. We ought to know the legal limits on local discretion. We should be able to pick the right step in the process where our input and that of others who agree with us can have the most influence. And then it's interesting, he has this as a singular sentence paragraph. We ought to know our rights and how to defend them. Isn't that important? And then in last little bit here, at the heart of all this must be a respect for the dignity of the individual. We believe as Americans that all are equal before the law. And anyway, he goes on and on. Some great thoughts that come out of this book. I encourage you to read it, including the preface and how to understand legal definitions and read legal code and those kinds of things. And that's all I have.
Thanks.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We excuse Commissioner Settlemeyer and Commissioner Bailey this week. They are excused, as I said just a second ago. Do we have consideration and action to approve the February 4th Planning Commission meeting minutes? I'd entertain a motion.
I have some changes. I'd like to make.
Yes.
I noticed in the minutes, it said that Commissioner Gardner, myself nominated you to be chair. I don't remember who did, but I actually nominated Phil.
Yeah, it was Commissioner Bailey.
And so that correction needs to happen there.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Is that it?
Otherwise, I would motion with those changes that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Second from Phil. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Any ex parte communications or conflict of interest on these two items that we have today? Okay. We'll now open it up for public comments on any items that are not on the agenda. If anybody wants to, anybody online?
No raised hands.
Okay. Great. Then we'll just move right to SPR 2025-06, consideration and recommendation regarding an administrative application, site plan approval of a fast stop gas and convenience store at the Village of Prominence Point, located at approximately 1700 North Washington Boulevard. Presenter, Scott Hess.
Thank you. And Ryan, if you don't mind just pulling up the site plan, and then I'll walk through the staff report itself. Perfect, thank you. So what we have tonight is one of the commercial developments at the Village at Prominence Point. The project location is approximately 1700 North and Washington Boulevard. This would be the northwest corner of the interchange, the intersection there, the southeast corner of Village at Prominence Point itself. It's worth noting that there was an approved there was an approved 7-Eleven on this piece of ground that happened right around the time that 7-Eleven kind of pulled back and stopped doing some new stores. And that project was ultimately pulled before it went under construction. So I used that background and that information from that staff report to help us develop this one as we went through. Village at Prominence Point is its own kind of land use sandbox to look at. It's a master plan community zoned piece of property that is driven by a development agreement, but also by the MPC zone. So you have to do a little bit of picking through both of them. And that's created a pretty healthy, lengthy staff report, as well as including the entire development agreement. You've got 120 pages that if you rolled through everything, it's a lot to take care of. So what we'll do is we're going to go through the analysis of the development agreement in the MPC zone and point out areas that the Planning Commission needs to consider. There are several considerations here. And although this is an administrative item, so our job is to administer the development agreement and administer the MPC code. Because of the development agreement, this is actually a recommendation at the Planning Commission level, and the City Council is the administration decision-making authority for all commercial development in the MPC code. So it's kind of a unique, this is our only administrative project type that does not stop here at the Planning Commission.
Scott?
Yeah.
One question. I noticed in the development agreement, there's a few places where it mentions the Planning Commission shall approve X versus the council.
Yep.
How does that affect that?
So the Planning Commission is the final approval of all of the residential housing units, and the commercial site plans move forward to City Council. So there, it's just, that's the dividing line essentially. So there are there's four total commercial parcels. There's on the north, the car wash, Express Car Wash parcel. There's a south vacant one, an access road that's private, and then this gas station parcel is divided into two. So this is the southernmost piece. So all four of those, and the car wash did this, but would go to the City Council for approval. All of the others stop here with the apartments and any other site plans. That's a good question. Based on a development agreement amendment, gas stations are an allowed use in the MPC zone. That happened 6 or 7 years ago prior to 7-Eleven moving forward. And the site is just under an acre, 39,879 square feet. The building's 4,800 square feet. There is 28% landscape and plaza area proposed, and the hard surface is 60%. I did confirm with our city engineer that the site is being designed to meet the stormwater requirements. This area, the city has some really tight stormwater and storm detention basin requirements, and the total hard surface calculation was included. So this particular project, while it alone won't have an effect, it's kind of a they all build on each other as we continue to build the site out. So we'll get more and more concerned about the very specifics of stormwater as we go, but large surfaces like 60% of this is hard surface. Almost half an acre is a large amount of stormwater detention that we need to consider. So building placement and massing, if you go back to the original intent of the development agreement and Village at Prominence Point back to 2014, it was really aspirational, I would say. So that's not to say that we shouldn't hold each of these developments to a high standard, but reading the development agreement, I think the hope was that you would have a street wall of walkable businesses along Washington Boulevard and back along 1700. The development of those housing units would have all come up out of the ground a lot sooner than they have. And at this point, you have commercial property on the corner of one of our only stoplight controlled areas that has sat vacant for 12 years, available vacant zoned commercial for 12 years. I think that was one of the reasons that the gas station initially got some traction, and we also had an approved plan for a drive-through business that ultimately never came into the city as well. So while we look through the development agreement, there are some considerations that staff has made that I'd like the Planning Commission to decide whether staff's determination of meeting maybe the spirit of the development agreement, the spirit of the code versus exact letter of the law in the MPC and in the development agreement is worth discussing or sticking to. So those will be considerations for you. The first is the frontage. So the Fast Stop itself has 167 feet of frontage, and the portions of the building that face Washington Boulevard make up 51 feet facing north, 84 feet facing west or east, and an additional 16 feet facing east. The building is oriented towards the corner, so determining what length of the facades are visible from Washington Boulevard in the north and south directions is a bit of a guessing calculus is what we did. And so we tried to be as reasonable as we can. And the measurements that are shown here, if Ryan, you can highlight what I just pointed out. On the north side, the short length of the building, 51 feet, and then the 83 plus 16 are the other pieces. Planning Commission should determine if these frontage measurements satisfy the building size and location. Staff recommends they do. The site plan shows a 10-foot setback at the nearest point of the sidewalk. Further in the document, it says that the setback is 20 feet, so I can't actually determine, but this is 10 feet off of what I'm assuming is the right-of-way line behind the sidewalk. The original, the building should be held back from the Clearview site triangle, which it's held back plenty on that, but the original development agreement wanted a really prominent corner facing building. And if it were going to come, staff's opinion is that within 12 years it would have come. So I think that we've made some really good progress on this to make it a plaza and open and dual access points into this convenience store. But the 10-foot setback is one that the Planning Commission could have required as little as 0. We could have gone right up to the count, right up the back of the sidewalk. Building orientation, we believe that it has a retail use majoring or entering onto the major streets. There isn't an access onto 1700 North, but due to the position of the building and the plaza, staff is recommending that this meet the spirit of the code as far as building orientation. Max height is 35 feet tall. The Fast Stop is approximately 20 plus or minus feet tall. Height is good. There's no real buffering walls that are being recommended, and this site is held back from any future commercial by at least 385 East, and then actually some parking and open space in the future concept plan, but we have yet to see what the final development will look like there off of 1700 and 385. There's no screening requirements outside of the dumpster. The dumpster is indicated to be on the north side, about as far away from 1700 North in Washington as you can place it while still being practical to access. And it is within a dumpster enclosure. The location of power meters, in going back to the aspirational elements of the development agreement, they wanted no power meters showing in all walkable elements. And there are times when you get kind of the back of house items that front your major streets and they make it slightly less walkable or less, it's a less beauty, less design. The power meters are not shown. Planning Commission, we'd like to know if Planning Commission is comfortable with staff reviewing that prior to the city council discussion. And then there are existing utility boxes at the corner of Washington Boulevard and 1700 North that are indicated to remain, and staff is okay with those. They don't propose they don't create a clear view triangle issue. People have been using that intersection for several years with no problems there.
How tall are those utility boxes?
I'd have to go back. I mean, I have to actually measure, but they're pretty much your standard communication and power green utility boxes out there on the.
Do they meet our requirements under the site triangle issues? They're not too tall.
That's a great question. There are so many that don't, and we could lean on our franchise agreements, I guess, but they're typically
There-
within right
There
of
are
way.
quite a few in the city that are too
Mhm.
tall
Yep, I
to
agree.
meet that requirement, so.
That's one I'll double check. Thank you.
Okay.
The building materials are brick, precast concrete, and aluminum composite panels. There are three colors. I think originally the color palette was supposed to be a little more earth tones. These are kind of a lighter cream color, gray, and red as per the franchise for Fast Stop. Planning Commission would determine whether the color palette meets the intent of the development agreement. There's a color rendering, and then I think further down, we can see the building itself. This was, if you go up right there, that's the rear entrance that would be on Washington Boulevard, and then scroll down, Ryan. And that one with the fast stop sign is the inward facing, the gas pumps facing side that's north and on the northwest corner of the property. And then if you go up to the landscape plan, that gives you a pretty good idea of the plaza area. So the building is surrounded by a concrete plaza. There are bike racks, benches, amenities. There's a location for a monument sign that's been shown. It's on the north side, not prominent on the corner. Several trees. We have some street trees that we do have recommended in an old tree planting guide. But overall, the site, in working with the developer, has been made to be, I think, as pedestrian friendly as possible and have that corner facing. It's not like total back of building facing Washington Boulevard and 1700 North. It is accessible and would be accessible by people. The next one is the building elevations and the glazing requirements. So the maximum length of any blank wall uninterrupted by windows, doors, and architectural detailing shall be 15 feet. And there's several spots of the building that meet, but the northernmost elevation and then the southern elevations don't have glazing. I had a conversation with a planning commission member earlier today. Do you want to bring up your point now while we're talking about?
Yeah, sure. We had talked about recently, Scott, you'll have to remind me what they're called. Something blah, 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 glass.
Spandrel glass.
Spandrel?
Spandrel. SPANDREL.
Okay, spandrel. Okay. Glass. It's not really glass. Is that correct?
Correct. It's an exterior, like a faux finish that is glazed. It looks like frosted glass once it's up on the building.
Looks like it's glazed glass. Yeah, it gives it a window look without having the exposure or because that's back of store kind of operations, especially on the south side there. I think that would be a perfectly good trade-off rather than requiring windows that we use the spandrel glass kind of thing to give that interrupted feel
Mhm.
that the development agreement is looking for without actually having to put in actual windows. And I would recommend to Planning Commission that would be our recommendation, that we use that.
Okay, when we get down to that item, and I want to bring it up as we go through because there are lots of conditions at the end.
Mhm.
Or pieces for the planning commission to determine. The planning commission can review the signs and make a recommendation to the city council regarding their design. Again, original development agreement, they wanted consistent signage throughout. They wanted this to feel like all one cohesive unit. So your options are Fast Stop has a franchise agreement with Fast Stop signs, or we make them look like the Ultimate Car Wash. That's really your only options at this point. Like Ultimate Car Wash Express went first, so they sort of set the bar as far as design, colors, signage goes. Staff's opinion is that we're far enough away from the original development agreement, and the project just hasn't panned out. And that's not to say that we shouldn't, again, hold to the development agreement or hold to the aspirations of the city. But this is a case where getting something on the ground that might push further development to come in because they see development activity, and we were comfortable with the signs as they are related to the franchise agreement for the business. But that's a consideration for you guys. Landscaping plans seem to meet those requirements. There's plenty. I think the thing that we'll need to work on is just to assure that trees planted along Washington Boulevard meet streetscape standards. And that's mainly street tree sizes to not lift concrete panels and also to not grow over the sidewalk to impede ADA requirements. There are some missing decorative streetlights for the Washington Boulevard streetscape standards. Those have been installed as each new project comes in, so those would be required on the south side. We have the standard for those with Public Works. And in the streets and pedestrian ways, there's a southern access off of 1700 North. And it's two things. One is it's close to the intersection, as it's kind of thought of as an acceleration lane off of Washington Boulevard onto 1700 North. And then its proximity to 385 East. City planning and the city engineer don't support that access point. So Planning Commission will need to make a recommendation to the city council regarding that southern access.
Did the 7-Eleven site plan that was approved include that?
I can go back and look. I can see if they've had it. There were there were a lot of iterations of it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember for sure. I don't think it did. I think it was forced back to the main
Okay.
connection.
Scott, do you mind just explaining the why in terms of recommendation being not to have that access point?
So there's limitations on the distance to an intersection that you can have an access point. And if this were the only one, we would flex that east and west a little bit to make sure that it met kind of within the requirements of several hundred feet from the access point to 1700 North. But to have an access and then 50 feet later, which is essentially 2.5 parked cars into 385 East, it feels there's just a lot of entrance points there. So you could have two cars competing to go, an eastbound and a westbound movement at the same time that are only 50 feet apart. And as opposed to utilizing the private street network off of 385 East and keeping it all internal to the site that way.
And it also has additional conflicts when it comes to the left turn pocket on
Mm.
the
I
at the
see.
intersection and the transition there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they try to move them as far away from the
Yeah,
intersection as possible.
as possible. Thank you both.
Yep. Washington Boulevard streetscape standard is met with the 10-foot sidewalk being shown. 1700 North, this is wrong. It says, oh, actually, no. On our trails plan, 1700 North is a trail. And as we've done in the past, urban trails, we've had a 6-foot wide sidewalk operate as part of the trail, and that's on the north side. So this has been noted in the developer's response and added as a condition of approval. it meets parking requirements, and there's no, there's no landscape solar design. There's no other kind of like local climate design that's in here, the environmental elements that were part of the development agreement. Conformance with the general plan. This, we believe that it does meet the goals of the Southtown plan. Again, it's not the most, I kind of put like a summary of staff considerations, and I did a little bit of retail leakage analysis on gas stations. We're at 21,000 people. We will grow to 40,000 people. We will need additional fuel stations along Washington Boulevard and convenience stores generally. You have several hundred new units that are coming out of the ground in addition to Village at Prominence Point. So if the market continues to move like it does now, you'll have 1,000 new rooftops in this immediate area that are approved. And so we think that a convenience use is practical, useful. Is it the highest sales tax grossing use that there is? No, but they're extremely useful and they typically have a long life. So what we're looking at for this corner is maximizing a commercial corner that has been sat unutilized for several years. You'll get a significant property tax increase to the city. And again, these are things that we shouldn't zone for dollars or consider that, but as economic development director, I put that hat on. And we'll get a significant investment in the ground, which will increase property taxes. Property taxes are very stable. We'll see those for the life of the building essentially. And then the sales tax revenues that come with a gas station ebb and flow. And anecdotally, I understand that Maverick has one of the highest icy sales of our Maverick has one of the highest icy sales of any Maverick, and that's proximity to the swimming pool. And then you could almost base like swimming pool attendance off of the number of pizzas that Little Caesar sells. So
Yeah.
there's these funny little economic markers. And I would imagine that this one will be the same way, that as rooftops come in, we'll see sales tax bump and increase at this location. So the summary of your land use authority considerations, and again, these are your recommendations. Does the building qualify as a gateway building? Is the design consistent? Is the proposal consistent with the general plan? Do the frontage measurements and building size satisfy the location? Along with, are the setbacks satisfactory? Lower location of power meter isn't shown. Does the color palette meet the intent of the development agreement? Are the glass percentages and glazing met? And we discussed that one. Does the proposed franchise signage meet the intent of the development agreement? We need the decorative streetlights to be installed as in all other areas of Washington Boulevard. The access off 385 East along 1700 is not supported by staff. And 1700 North must have a 6-foot wide sidewalk to operate as a trail, which has been noted in the developer's response. And with that, staff will answer any questions. We recommend as approved with those conditions, and happy to answer any questions.
I got a few.
Please do.
The installation of the water main from 1700 North. I didn't really see that in your staff report.
It might be in the TRC memo. So Jason Rennie noted culinary water, and we're avoiding Washington Boulevard. Everybody avoids Washington Boulevard essentially at all costs. So the culinary water should come off of 1700 North.
Well, Jason is aware that the developer, like when the car wash came in, the developer installed the water main down to his southern border.
Okay.
And it's supposed to continue behind the curb all the way down and connect into 1700. And
1700.
on their plans, they're showing connecting into this line,
Okay.
but they're not really showing their extension across their frontage of this line.
So I would make that a recommendation, and we can confirm make sure that it meets public works and
Yeah,
engineering standards.
but I believe that's been Jason's intent the whole time, that would get installed as development occurs.
So that would loop the line all the way down to 1700 is what you're saying.
It would
Connect.
it into the line at 1700 and then extend it as far to their north boundary.
Up
and
to the
then-
car wash. Okay.
There is a little distance between there and the next connection because they've already installed it all the way across, I believe, to that access road that the car wash
Okay.
goes in. So
Other
that is
questions?
one of my questions.
Okay. Are you writing any notes?
The other question deals with the site triangle.
Mhm.
The 40-foot site triangle is the old city standard.
Mhm.
I'm not sure where this came up with, but the city standards calls for two 30 by 100-foot triangles
Yep.
on the corner. Although that is for local roads. In the standard, it does say that when let me see, says side triangles apply to all North Ogden City streets, but UDOT to dictate side triangles on intersecting streets on state roads. So I looked up what UDOT's requirements, and they have to meet the AASHTO requirements. Whether that 40-foot meets the AASHTO requirements, I don't know.
Okay.
But so there are some differences.
Yeah, that's true. And the location, the most concerning tree is that it's right next to the word site triangle with the arrow. So
Yeah.
it's on the
And
right side.
if they were to use the city standards,
Mhm.
ours apply to the back of the curb.
Yep.
All the way up versus that 40-foot is right of way. So
Right. I can find out from David Alger how that's going to go. There's no other Washington Boulevard encroachment, so there's been no need for an encroachment permit or other
Right.
street permit there. But I'll make sure that Tim Dixon reviews that as part of the site plan approval.
okay. I think that's it for right now.
Sure.
Go ahead.
On the entrance on 1700, John, were you able to find out quickly anything on the previous business's plan? I don't remember there being an entrance on 1700, but that was quite a few years ago.
It was.
Give me
There was one?
No,
Give me
it was quite a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Give me a few more seconds, because I think that's actually like a holdover on the site triangle. Is that the plans are based somewhat on those old plans, but I'll see if I can find it real quick.
Okay. Da, 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 da. That's the question. The biggest concern I had as I read through this packet was that entrance. That could be a real traffic nightmare, especially individuals trying to, at the busy time of day, whether that, when that's rush hour, people coming home, a lot of people coming in and going westbound on 1700. Plenty of people coming out of that parking lot wanting to try to turn left and go east on 1700.
Yeah.
Forcing a rerow, a right in, right out intersection there doesn't address the issues that would be caused with traffic trying to turn right and left at 385 east. And if you've got somebody there at 385 trying to turn left, you've got that tree there, you've got some landscaping and things there that might obscure vision just a little bit. Somebody there at looking to turn right out of that 1700 entrance, they're going to be looking left for clear traffic that way. They pop out and accelerate, and you've got somebody that thinks it's clear and they're popping out on 385. I just see a ton of problems there.
So I found one dated October 5, 2020 that seems to be close to the last iteration as it moved forward, and it does not have another access point.
It did not have a 1700 entrance.
No.
Yeah, that's what I remembered.
I do remember there's a set of plans that were approved by the engineer.
Mhm.
But that was like years ago, so.
Yeah, 6 years ago.
Beyond our ability to remember.
Yeah, like by 6 years. Just kidding.
My recommendation would be that entrance not be there. I think that's just going to prove to be a nightmare. But that's my personal feeling.
Lisa, did you have a question for Scott?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah.
And can we all make sure we're talking into the mic? I have a hard
Oh,
time
yeah.
hearing is bad
Yeah.
and some of us are louder than others.
I'll talk into the mic.
Thanks.
So this is the 7-Eleven site plan from that October meeting.
Okay, so
Yeah,
nothing
I-
on 1700.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
All right. If there's no more questions, we would like to hear from the applicant. If there is there. Phew. Scared me for a second.
Steve Peterson with Case Loan Hart. I'm the architect on the project and representing Fast Stop for this submittal. So yeah, that's well done. Nice summary. Yeah, so you know, we're certainly open to the suggestions and recommendations. But yeah, we're excited to get that going. Fast Stop is a company that's based out of Ogden, Utah. The primary owner of Fast Stop lives in North Ogden, so they have local interest as well. But excited to be hopefully get this project in place.
Just as we walk through some of the considerations we'll be having to make here, in terms of colors, just starting at the top of the list, is there an alternative to the red that would blend better with the overall development agreement and area that Fast Stop might be able to utilize? And I don't mean on the signage, I'm talking about that red.
Sure. I mean, red is their corporate colors, right? The silver and red is kind of their corporate identity, that corporate look. But I don't know that there's an exact color as part of the agreement. Like I said, I think the intent was for all the commercial ones to kind of blend together, and that didn't really develop, I think, the way that was planned. So, so our first go was to kind of protect that corporate image of their stations to address that. So, we can certainly, I mean, if that's the part of the deal to get accepted, I mean, we can look at alternative colors to make it work though.
Do you know what types of fuel they're gonna sell there? Are they gonna do regular diesel, propane?
I don't think there's any plans for propane right now, but they'll be, yeah, you'll have your regular, your diesel. I'm not sure if they have ethanol free.
Okay. But no propane.
I that's not in the
Okay.
plan right now, no.
And that's a good point about what city code would rule. And this is the question about the layers of our current code, because you have commercial design standards, master plan communities, and a development agreement. And the DA says that convenience stores are permissible. In the MPC, it's probably silent, and in our commercial code, convenience stores are permitted propane, and it's really specific in what you could do. So if
Yeah.
you wanted it, we had Ace do a site plan for their propane tank and location. We would probably include it in the site plan. So just think about that in the future. If you
Yeah, I don't think they plan on having a refill station there. They may have one of those lock boxes where you can exchange things, but I don't think, right now, there's no plans to go beyond something like that.
Thank you.
If I'm looking at the back of that building, I see, well, which is kind of the front of the building, right?
The
That's
street front, right.
yeah. I have a lot of consternation about. I'm
We
just-
do have two sides, yes.
Yeah, right. And so there, correct me if I'm wrong, I see one door there, like a single man door. Is that what I
There's
see
some
in the
storefront
plan?
there, but there's a single door, right,
Okay.
for access from that street side, correct?
From the street side. Is the intent for that to be unlocked during business hours?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And the reason we limited, we don't have this double door or a power door or anything is, we'd love to have pedestrian traffic, but I suspect it will be pretty limited, so we limited it. But being that it is a full aluminum storefront, should that become a more of a need for pedestrian traffic, there's always opportunities to expand it to a double door or a
Yeah.
power door or something like that. It also, the elevation as it currently shows doesn't have any signage. That will obviously, there's certain, there'll be separate permitting for that signage stuff, but there obviously would be some signage, but we would work through that.
Okay.
That as we get, depending on, what maybe food
Mhm.
service might be in there with the Fast Stop brand. There's still some negotiating going on there. And then that can be finalized.
So there's a plan for a sign on that side.
For sure,
That was my-
yes. Yeah.
Great. Okay, that was my second question. Yes,
Is
sir.
there a relationship between Fast Stop Markets and Fast Stop what you're building?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
They have travel centers and then Fast Stop Express, but
yeah.
If you may have
not a
noticed-
Fast Stop Market.
but I don't know Fast Stop Market.
Okay.
You know, like the Trigon stations that were here, Fast Stop has purchased those and they have been rebranded as well. So you may notice those as
They're
being
cool.
Fast Stops now.
Okay.
The reason I ask is I just looked it up and there's some Fast Stop Markets, which are convenience markets, right? They look like corner, but they don't have the big red banner
Right.
that Commissioner Green was talking about.
It's probably a matter of differentiation then.
Matter of what?
A differentiation probably between the
They
gas
may not
station and
be
the
related
market.
At all.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Nisa? Okay, I don't think there's any more questions.
And to address the spandrel glass, the current
Oh.
elevations shown on there, we are utilizing some spandrel glass already to kind of address the quantities that are required. So
Okay.
if we need to expand that more to meet that requirement on that north elevation or something, that's we're already doing that anyway. So
Okay, great.
Thank you.
you bet.
All right, I'll entertain discussion on this.
Start at the top of the list and work down, or just,
What are our thoughts there?
That's what I'm thinking. Should we just go through the list?
yeah, might
Yeah.
make it easier to target.
I don't know if it'll make it easier. Could make the meeting longer.
And I guess just, I'm thinking the things that are set off in red that they're specifically asking for our feedback on. Any concerns about frontage and setback, or do we feel like the way that, staff?
Commissioner Green, I'm having a really hard time
I'm so
hearing you.
sorry. Yes, and you asked me, I need to slide this forward. Any concerns about the frontage or setback? Those seem to be the first two things called out for consideration.
Are you looking at the summary of land use authority considerations?
The determinations throughout the document.
Yeah.
Red
I
in-
Oh, it's
simplified.
starting at the
language.
top determination.
Yep.
Okay.
What page are you on? I'm on a different
Page
one.
3 of 11.
So essentially, the first one being the frontage and the second one being setback. I have nothing to say related to those issues. I think Scott did a great job expressing the considerations from staff point of view, and I would agree with that, but
I would think if the setbacks do not interfere with that site triangle, then I think we're good.
I'm not mistaken, it jumps down to the power meter. Which I think he's just saying, can staff review that and we can trust them on that? Any objections to that?
I think that would be acceptable.
Agreed.
Self. Yeah.
Then we jump down to the color palette issue. I guess I'll speak on that first. It's not that color's the end of the world. I think it's good to have this development come in. It's just that when you look at the car wash, their tones, I just looked it up to make sure it was fresh in my memory. The whole building is like earth tones, browns, muted. Their signs are quite jazzy. If Fast Stop uses the bright red signs, that seems to make sense because that's already been allowed at the car wash property. But when you look at Prominence Point, the buildings, everything is earth tone. So I'm just not completely convinced that allowing that bright red awning, that kind of stripping really matches the intent of the development agreement. Perhaps if it was, I don't know, black's not necessarily an earth color, but that's just a thought in terms of making this neighborhood look cohesive.
How do we consider a certain development come in and they have certain colors they like to use, and when they're in conflict with what maybe we want to see?
I do have one example and I'll use it because it's built and it exists, but we have in our commercial design standards that say white as a primary color is not permitted. And we have beautiful Nielsen's frozen custard in white ceramic tile. And there was a code change that permitted Nielsen's to go forward when it was based on specifically a franchise agreement. And so if it's the franchise colors and they can say, this is what a fast stop looks like, or this is what a whatever looks like. And we've pushed back a little bit, and you might not totally be able to see it, but Bank of America is ivory. It's not pure white.
Pure
And
white.
their original building was pure white, and we said this isn't permissible. And they gave us several color paint code like samples, basically. So it's up to you. The development agreement rules in this case, and then again, it sort of rolls up the chain of which design standards we follow. So I think that's up to you for your consideration. And then there are also the ACM aluminum composite panels. So they're metal panels. They're not like a hardy material or anything. ACMs can be made to look like stucco. They can be textured. There's a bunch of different ways they can do it. I'm guessing these are probably smooth panel or like minor texture. And again, I don't have a design language for Village at Prominence Point to turn around and say this, this is exactly what it should look like. But I want you all to think about it and consider it so that City Council has your thoughts.
I don't know. I wasn't, and probably am, I mean, I'm on a spectrum of that silver and red where I don't love it, but I understand that that is the sort of that's the logo. I know that somewhere in Arizona, there's a McDonald's with teal green arches
Really?
that, because they had to change their colors in order to fit within the city code. And the architect or the applicant, excuse me, has said that that might be something that they would be willing to do. But I think that if we say it's not silver and red, we need to come up with some suggestions as to what it might be, or we, send it back and we play back and forth for a little bit. So what are your thoughts on this?
I wonder if they have some alternative colors that maybe they've used in other locations.
Yeah. It
That
didn't
would-
sound like that though, and initially, like when I looked this up earlier, my knee-jerk reaction was like, I don't know. But with signage facing the street, that access there, I love the trees. I love the, kind of around it. But I'm really searching for input here from the commission.
I guess I wouldn't object to it depending on the location. It has a very strong like freeway on and off ramp vibe. But that's not here nor there. That's my personal opinion. But I don't know if this.
I don't think it's working.
Like, I'm not usually that quiet. We'll try this. Oh, it's
Way better.
That's why. So that's not here nor there, but I think that is the look though, and it leans that way strongly. And my only question is just the development agreement said earth tone colors are encouraged to help it blend into the environment. However, it could be changed, assuming that it's compatible with the surrounding developments. And I guess that's where the question is. And this is the keystone kind of piece of Prominence Point. I don't want to hold up this whole thing over color. I'm just wondering if there's a reasonable alternative that could be asked for. So that's it.
I think question one is, are there alternative color schemes? And that's a question that Mr. Architect can answer for us either tonight or come back, right? Get back to us on. The other is, I found myself as I was looking at this packet and looking at the elevation drawings, we're looking at those without any landscaping in place.
True.
There's no
Yeah,
lawn,
yeah.
there's no plaza,
It's
there's no
soft and
umbrellas, there's no trees. All of that is going to tend to obscure some and to blend some
That's true.
and make it a much nicer, I mean, if it were just the silver and red, just standing out there, like you get the idea. But with that mature landscape, I'm thinking 5 years down the road when the trees have grown. If it's like the flowering pear kind of tree or whatever is allowed and they're in bloom and the bushes are trimmed nice and okay. and a little bit of grass is grown. I think there's some grass in there. I can't remember on the landscaping. I think there's a little bit, but all of that is done. I think the overall, what's the word I'm looking for? Gestalt function
Mhm.
will be very muted because of the landscaping, the way it's turned and the spandrel glass and some of those aspects that they put in there. I tried to picture those elevation drawings with the tree and everything else in there, and in my mind, which could be completely wrong, it seemed to be acceptable, especially since it is the brand. It's not just somebody saying, I want a White House with a red, red fascia around it or
Mhm.
something like that. It is their trademark. And I think it would be okay.
I agree with you on the landscaping. I think the landscaping will make a big difference, and we're not seeing that. I do look at, I think what kind of, as I scrolled through that packet, I saw like these drawings of what originally, like back in the, early, I think late 90s, I swear, is when those came. No, I'm just kidding. But
The concepts.
yeah, those concepts were pretty amazing, kind of real woodsy feel to them, right? And you can see how Ultimate Express sort of tried and I think succeeded in some ways, in some ways it didn't. And then this building is going to look very different from Ultimate Express, like very different. And so, are we okay with that transition of what those looks like, what that looks like? Bill.
I'm okay with it because we look at what the very aspirational drawings from 14 years ago got us. I mean,
Yeah.
I was on
Yeah.
council at the time.
Yeah.
I was part of the decision making that, yeah, this is what we aspire to have this part of town look like. And look what it got us,
Yep.
goose eggs.
Correct.
And I suppose we could go on for decades more.
Hoping to get something.
Yeah. No,
Hoping that somebody
yeah.
comes along and builds these very architecturally pleasing and visually pleasing and quite frankly, very expensive
Mhm.
buildings with all the glass and the wood and the angular nature of them. That doesn't bring us property taxes. That doesn't provide this service to those living at the south end of our town, which I think is something that will happen here.
I do too.
And that
I
doesn't,
think it's an even trade-off for me.
and that doesn't sort of continue the development and allow for then more development to occur around it. So,
Yeah,
I
if it's
agree.
the catalyst for
Yeah.
more development,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we win.
Okay. I would entertain a motion.
Do we have one quick, I think there was one other thing, or no, maybe we covered it, was I think,
Entrance.
The spandrel glass.
yeah, the spandrel glass on that north and south elevation. Because that would just need to be included in a motion if we're saying we want to see that increased. Because if I'm not mistaken, it looks like those two sides are fairly blank for long expanses, which is what's being called out by staff. So we want to increase the amount of spandrel glass that's being utilized. I think is the last thing, just to make sure we're all on the same page here.
Did we cover the 1700?
Oh, no, and
the
the
Yeah.
closure of the road,
yes,
the access.
those are the, yep.
Yeah. Also, if we could include in there, extension of the water main.
That's right. There's quite a few.
And the confirmation of the site view triangle.
The
Wanna have
site
that one?
triangles meet the requirements there.
Okay. I can probably take a stab unless someone else is feeling passionate because I've got it written down here. Okay. I move that we recommend the site plan approval of the Fast Stop gas station and convenience store at Village at Prominence Point project, subject to the conditions of the staff report. Additionally, with a water line connectivity included, striking the additional access, which was, what was the address on that? That was
1700.
1700, the additional 1700 access. And then also including, let's see, this was the spandrel glass on the north and south elevations. and confirmation of the site triangle.
I'll second that.
Ooh. Are we ready for a vote? Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Swanson,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. All right. Moving along as one does. Item number 6, again, this is an administrative item, SPR 2026-03, consideration and recommendation regarding an administrative application site plan approval for the Ben Lomond Fitness Building and site improvements located at approximately 1912 North, 400 East. Presenter is Ryan Nunn.
Thank you, commissioners. This site plan is a little more simple, not an NPC zone. It's in our, this is in our Southtown commercial zone. It is there is an existing building there that has been utilized or has had this use, this fitness, athletic, health use. The applicant is looking to expand on the building. Uh, and its location being on a corner will really help enhance that. Through the staff's review of our commercial code, you know, we found that it is a permitted use. They are meeting their setback requirements off Washington in 1900. They are within their height requirements as well. A few of the things we wanted, or one item for the planning commission to consider on this one and their decision is the window requirement. Or so they are meeting their window and door requirement for Washington. However, or excuse me, I'm reminding myself as I'm looking. So they are just short of that 50% window requirement on Washington. Excuse me, they do have their building entrances they needed, but they are not meeting that full 50% that our code requires. So that's something for planning commission to consider on how to increase that or what the recommendation or condition should be. The other one that I appreciate Commissioner and Chair Watson brought up to staff was in the architectural designs of the building, there is a requirement for a variation along building frontages, both on a frontage as well as side and rear. And that is for the front, it's every 50 feet. For a side and rear, it's every 30 to 50 feet. There needs to be some type of variation in that wall. Looking at the elevations of the building, there is, where they're building out from the current building, there is some variation, but then the rear portion, which staff measured as about 65 feet, there is no variation. And so that would be an addition, a condition to include on having some type of pillars or,
Architectural feature.
yeah, those architectural features added at
Can,
that.
can we put that drawing up?
Do you want me? Ryan, I'll put it up on my screen so it's easier for you to.
There, I have it here. Yes, so this is the north side as well as the rear, and then also the south side that faces 1900. Would need along this rear, I think 65 feet is what we measured. Would need some type of that architecture variation. Otherwise, we believe, or the the horizontal variation where it's a sloped roof, and as well as everything on the Washington side, this west elevation is um, met, except there is this new addition is, I believe, 60 feet. You remember, Scott, when we were measuring? Um, and so those are two items to consider on the, really on all four sides, on windows and then architecture, what addition to require. And then the remaining items, they are meeting their landscaping, their as well as the building and hard surface is all met. The last items I wanted to bring up to Planning Commission are our trash enclosure requirements, as well as the sidewalk requirements along both Washington and 1900.
Do they have room to put a trash enclosure?
I would say potentially.
Could you put up the site plan?
Yes.
for that, and we can see
Let me
that?
pull that back up. So this is their current layout. They do have just a freestanding bin in the rear. In their new designs, the exception Planning Commission, I believe, would need to make is if it could be in a side yard. So maybe on this 1900 or I don't know. I doubt it could be on the north side because that is the drive aisle. Um, and then the rear is also a drive aisle, so it's kind of a predicament. But if the applicant was willing to move it or build an enclosure, in my opinion, the best location would be that side yard, and that does not meet our requirements, so it'd have to be approved by Planning Commission.
And Ryan, to complicate this site even more is that every individual owner of the Southtown Center has their own strip of property with frontage along Washington. So what constitutes a front, rear, and side yard is ambiguous at best.
Yeah.
And then also the site itself, if it doesn't need a full-blown trash enclosure, if it can be done with a residential garbage can or something else. I mean, with it being a fitness site, I don't know how much material they're churning through. That's a consideration to have that we could discuss with the applicant. And in that case, it's no garbage enclosure required today, but a provision that in the future, when one is required, it's reviewed at a building permit to meet site plan standards and those elements.
Do we have any places where the trash enclosures are sort of community? The sort of the overall development
Yeah,
has one?
behind Lee's Marketplace, those trash enclosures kind of get used. I mean, they're sort of for that whole strip mall area get used for everybody. There's one owner of this the fitness building and then the longer building, they're all owned by the same property owner. So I would imagine there's some communal use between everybody there. But that's a great question. It's kind of a hard site because there's a clear rear of the building, but the rear of the building is the front setback of the southern building.
And then last is, it does not meet parking requirements, but the condition of that would be that there is a shared agreement written and then provided to the city before the building permit that parking that is north and then all of that parking to the east would be shared and could be utilized by this building as well.
Do we know if the adjacent owner of that property is willing to do combined parking shared?
Verbally, he's said yes. So candidly, it's Dave Meents is the owner of the is the owner of the building and this building as well as the one to the south. And then he also operates as the Business Owners Association for North Ogden Plaza. So it's easy to recognize that the plaza itself is overparked. There's the uses, clearly don't generate the parking necessary, but this site plan shows off-site improvements of striping and some curb and gutter and improvements of parking that are on property owned by a separate property owner. So we would want in writing a verbal agreement. And I think everybody has at minimum, I'm sorry, in writing, but everyone has essentially a verbal agreement that you just park where you park and everybody is nice to one another, and they all just kind of commingle. Like if there's no way to tell on the ground whether you're parked in front of Pizza Man or the standard plumbing or lighting design, whose property you're actually on, because they cross through the parking lot in such a squirrely way. So if Dave can assist with the Building Owners Association producing a shared parking agreement for this building at minimum, but we would really love one for all of them, all 6 owners, to just have a shared agreement.
Yeah, those are, so I guess really planning commission, if we could have that discussion on the architectural requirements, the trash enclosure. Oh, I apologize, without looking at my conditions, but having just those kind of finalized and then just including them as a condition for the applicant to address.
Any more questions for Ryan, Phil?
I've got one.
Comments?
Do we want to save comments until we hear from the applicant, or do we want to do them now?
You're the chair.
Generally, we hear from the applicant and then do comments.
I have a question for Ryan.
Yes.
Before we go. Ryan, did we look, like we talked on the other corner, the site triangle on this, and where we're expanding the new building closer to that intersection, that it meets, it's outside of that zone?
Right, I don't see it being an issue, so this, on the site plan I have right here, this is the new addition. And I believe it's far enough away, but where it is on Washington, which is a UDOT road, I don't know, that's something we could look at
Yeah.
further.
I also noticed that maybe, as they're taking out that driveway on the south side and putting curb and gutter in there and improving some of that sidewalk, I think that ADA ramp at the intersection ought to be looked at too.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, having the full 10-foot, and then we'd also like to have the 1900 sidewalk, which was not shown on the site plan,
Yeah.
included as part of that. And I think, having everything be ADA that makes sense.
I do have a couple of questions. What is we know that the window percentage along Washington is under 50% right now. What is the percentage? How close are they to the 50?
I measured that they needed like an addition, or that's what we were hoping the planning commission would want to interpret on. So when I bring up the elevations,
Yeah, we may interpret. I just want to know where
But
we
are
are.
we close to
I mean, the goal was
50 or-
50%. If they're at 19%, well, that's a bigger consideration than if they're at, say, 43 or 44%.
Isn't that what we're looking at
Yeah.
right now?
They're probably like 20%. And it depends on how you measure. Sometimes when we do the glazing, and Ryan and I went back and forth on this a little, sometimes you'll measure window pane across the window pane and you'll let the structural stuff in between be part of it. These have a little bit of a gap. I don't know with the fitness building what part might be a climbing wall or treadmills or something that someone would rather be at a wall than at a set of windows. But I'd defer a little bit to the applicant on that and what the inside of the building will look like and how it can be amended. But it's under the glazing requirement.
The other question I have is regarding the front setback. It says that it is less than the required 20 feet, but it doesn't tell us how much less. It says that we could make it down to 0, that planning commission could recommend down to 0. But it doesn't tell us where we are in relation to that 20%.
I think I had it at like 6 feet. Like they're
How
really-
much?
I believe it might have been 6 is what I measured,
6 feet?
or I mean, really from the site plan, they're close to their property line. And so that would just be another, yeah, that's another item for planning commission to allow that, that reduced setback.
Okay. So because it says that the front yard setback is proposed to be less than 20 feet. You're saying it's about 6 feet. That we could require a reduced front setback of 0 feet. The 0-foot side yard, 20-foot street side setback for the new addition are met. Rear yard setback of 0 feet is met. Staff recommends that the planning commission consider and approve the reduced front yard setback. Okay, I just wanted to see where we were in
Mhm.
relationship to that 20, knowing that we could
Mhm.
take it all the way to 0.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
But if we took it to 0, that would cut down on the amount of landscaping. And then would they meet that landscaping?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
Right.
I'm not suggesting we go to 0. I
No.
just wanted to know where we
Yeah.
were.
I like it. Any other questions for Ryan?
The two things I didn't hear Ryan say are 10-foot wide sidewalk on Washington Boulevard.
he did.
You did, and the 1900.
Yeah,
And then
twice.
the other, you said it twice, so I'm over here not paying attention. And the other thing to just note, which is an exciting element, is the 2024 RDA grants that were awarded to Dave Means. They were for the southern building, and City Council recently allowed the balance of those funds to be moved over to the CrossFit building. So that's part of what, we're excited about this investment in the city. 1900 and Washington Boulevard it's a key corner as well. It's kitty corner from the cannery. So to have a nice new investment there on the corner may spur development at Kurtz Plaza. So we're excited about putting those RDA funds to use. There's about $130,000 or so remaining, and it's a 50%, 50-50 match. So if the applicant or Dave Means or the property owner can put 130 in, they'll receive the remainder of that RDA funding.
Nice.
Nice.
And Matt, we don't have Chad Bailey is who represented as the architect, but we do have Matt Hammer, the business owner, here for any questions. Mike, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I was like, that looks like Mike Bailey. If there aren't any more questions for staff, then we will hear from the applicant.
Okay, I'm Mike Bailey, Chad Bailey. You guys know him?
We've heard of him.
That's my brother, and I'm just here to represent Matt and Sheena Hammer, the owners. I think it's a great facility. I think it's great for the community. Like so many friends, so many people. It's just good for us. They've lived here for 10 years, and they've been owners for 10 years. It's just a fun place, and I think it's going to be amazing compared to what it is now. Yeah, the glazing, we can adjust if we need to meet those requirements. No problem.
Do you know if there's any internal restrictions that would limit where the glazing goes or anything?
No, I've been talking to the owner. No, I don't think we have any of that problem.
Okay.
We might have to get into that same word called spandrel to do something with it, but
Yeah.
that is what it is.
Hmm.
Yeah. And my brother he said that he is at about 20% as also. He's saying the same thing that you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
The dumpster conversation, are you seeing a need for a dumpster, or were you guys going to continue to use
So
the
the
stand?
gym doesn't use very much, but that dumpster that is there is used by the laundromat, by Jones Shirts and Side. It is a community dumpster.
Mm.
The gym doesn't use it, paper towels, you know what I mean? Simple stuff.
Yeah.
But it is a community dumpster. And we could put it in that north alleyway if we had to, but it is a community dumpster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions for the applicant? Okay. You're off the hook.
Good enough. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Entertain some discussion here.
I think as far as the windows go and those, we ought to try to stay as close as we can to our standard as we deal with all the other businesses.
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
Whether they put the spandrel pipe glazing,
But they get to 50%.
yes.
I
yeah.
agree.
And
That was pretty.
Phil,
And will if with the change in the glazing, I think that takes care of our variation problem along the frontage as well, doesn't it?
probably will.
So it would kind of kill two birds with one stone just by adding the glazing. We also then break up in segments that are less than 50 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
We give that variation that's going on without having to do anything different.
What about the variation on the backside? You guys talked about that variation, what needs to happen on the backside? Because that's
Yeah.
was just going to get painted and just left simple with no variations.
Well, as I was reading through the packet, it said that a mural or something along those lines that's oriented to the business, right?
it's in our code. So again,
Our
our
code.
commercial design standards are a lot of may do this, but not shall do that.
Right.
And existing backside of the building, you could determine what it should look like. Backsides of buildings are relatively flat. With the 50 feet, we may require that vertical articulation, but there's no glazing requirement.
Right.
The issue is that the backside of this building is like the front corner of the laundromat. And so it's kind of a strangely oriented building. And then it's remaining largely, I think, the steel, right? It's just painted.
Chad's saying the backside is existing non-conforming use. Does that make
It-
sense to you
it-
guys?
It would be an existing non-conforming use up until the point, it's just being expanded so much, it's probably expanded beyond the point
Yeah,
of
it's-
like 50% of the cost of the structure, in which case you hit the site plan requirement and you just have to meet the site plan requirements. So we could look at what we've done on the backside of Mo Betta's, for instance, fronted Washington Boulevard, we required spandrel glass. What should the planning commission require? What should we require when the backside of a building fronts a private parking lot? And it's a hard question. We could look around at some, like the Arby's or the Subway or the Beans and Brews and other businesses that we have that the backsides front into a parking lot and maybe see what that looks like. And staff, one, we want to make sure we follow the rules. We want the planning commission to feel comfortable with the site plan. And we also are on the clock with the expenditure of the RDA funds. So 2 weeks doesn't necessarily, make or break a project, but it's something that we're cognizant of. So if the planning commission made a recommendation that whatever you felt comfortable with, we would hold to that.
Well, because perhaps Scott, you could suggest like a simple variation they could include, and maybe you don't know right now, but we could see if staff could come up with that. The one thing I want to point out though is with this King Plaza, our ultimate goal in the city is to hopefully have more development and perhaps changes to some of those existing aging buildings. So it's possible this building where you're putting a bunch of money into it, hopefully will have a long footprint and there could be newer, better development coming in around this building. So I wouldn't completely leave the back thinking, well, it just backs to the laundromat. Like it may not in 10 years, 15, 20. That's just the only thing I'm thinking because, we were on the Kings Plaza project looking at what the future could be. And now this building may be anchored on that corner. Just a thought. So anyway, I don't know if you have a recommend, I don't know what, if there's a quick cost-effective method that they could employ.
Yeah, the building's been architecturally designed with the angles and the way the roof comes out. So we were wondering if, speaking to the architect, we could do some of those similar horizontal features just extended. So another like
Like that.
angle coming across, like a cut coming across the building, and maybe you match those in the rear. So all four sides of the architecture have something that's a matching similar feature. Could be one way to do that and just make sure that it's within every 50 feet. To your point, Commissioner Green, the plan for Southtown would flip like the laundromat and Jones Shirts and Signs and the tattoo shop so that it actually faced 1900. So you'd end up with maybe a two-sided building, or it just would orient everything a little bit differently. But you're right that you put this kind of money into the ground, and this is probably, it's a decades-long investment into that structure. And I think it's going to be a great investment in a good business, a good local business that's hopefully stays there for a really long time.
Exactly. And if we get to daylight the creek ever as a dream, right, and have more of a community plaza, we just got, we're going to be looking at this rear of the building.
The daylighting of the creek, will that affect the north part of this property at all?
No, it comes across more at a corner, but the creek has been culverted and piped and then
Correct.
runs along 1900, and you can hear it bubbling at the corner of 1900 and Washington. And then if you cross the street, it comes back up on the just across the street from Big O Tires, right at 1900. So daylighting that creek would actually mean pulling it back out of the ground further back by the subdivision and rerouting it entirely. So I don't think any one investment changes it. It's just a matter of what do we do infrastructure wise and structurally with the creek if and when any piece of it is daylighted.
Right. That would depend on.
Would it be sufficient, Scott, or Ryan, in a motion to instruct staff to work with the developer to do something to that back wall that made it a little more aesthetically pleasing without going to, a great expense? But some design element, somebody mentioned, an angular piece or something like that. Just a little JB Weld and some rusted steel, right? Just kinda,
That's fair, I think.
but yeah, if would that be sufficient, Scott?
We would be happy to do that. And I think if the planning commission is comfortable with staff helping them meet the code without any really specific requirements, if planning commission sees this and you think, I want it to look exactly like this, then help us out. But otherwise we can work with them to make it meet the code. The outside too, it's a steel building now that's embedded and growing. So it's going to continue to be a steel building repainted. We really don't have anything in our design standards that say that it can't be that, but that's something else that, I don't know if that sets the stage for something else to become more warehouse. I know that the Southtown and the Cannery, they wanted more like old-timey red brick buildings, but this might turn it more modern. Like maybe the Southtown leans a little bit more towards modern architecture.
Well, I can't tell you what that backside should look like. I can tell you what I don't want it to look like.
If you can articulate what you don't want it to look like
What
and
we
to meet the
see.
code. Okay.
There needs to be,
Yep.
there needs to be something else there.
And Mike, you're free to, you don't have to stay
That's
at the pulpit. I do think that there needs to be some variation on that backside, and I'm not sure, when I'm looking, coming up Washington as I did today, I tried to picture this building as, to paraphrase my 4 commissioners past, the keystone of North Ogden, I think is what they referred to it, or the arches or the pinnacle, or any one number of words that sort of say like, this is what you see when you enter North Ogden. And I look at all of that flat gray and to me that I'd love to see some variation there, I think is what I'm trying to say. So we have the opportunity to either we could postpone this, send it back to staff, have them work a little bit more with some design elements and bring it back to us. Or we can put in a motion and sort of put those design elements in the motion. So I think, yes, Phil.
On the front side there, Chair.
Yeah.
As you're coming down Washington, are you thinking more angular elements, more color elements? Is it the monotone color that doesn't speak to you? What is it that doesn't speak to you?
I'm not 100% sure. I just felt like it was very utility, and I wanted it to be more cannery. But I understand that it's between Top Stop and the Cannery, so it doesn't have to be either one of those, really.
Right.
And I love the idea of a gym. I also love the architect, right?
Right.
Like, I'm not that fond of Mike, frankly.
Oh,
No, I'm
come
just kidding. I'm just
on.
kidding.
My
I threw that in there. Chad, Mike and I go way back. And I'm also very fond of, I mean, of all of them. So personally, I really like Chad and the design that he's put here. I'm just not sure if this is the spot for it. Like, you know, if it was the old Macy's, this is just so ideal for that. But I think with some architectural elements in there, some more windows, some more sort of design to it, I could be swayed.
Another question that I have,
Kill me, Chad.
we're at 1900 North here, correct?
Yeah.
North Ogden starts at 1500 North. We have Walker Theater. We have the little business building there. You know, as we're
Yeah.
coming north, we have the animal hospital. We have Cooperstown development that's all coming in. A question that I've had when I was on council, while I wasn't on council, and now that I'm on planning commission. Why are we making the gateway at 1900 and at Southtown Plaza? When in reality, you're a half mile into the city, very much noticeably into the city, long before you ever get to this development.
I think my gateway is more like a tunnel, frankly.
Mm.
I mean, truthfully, my gateway is a tunnel, and I'm passionate about this particular piece. I do think it's an immense improvement on the building as it is. Immense. I love the idea of improving that building. And frankly, I'm open to what you bring me as, like, I'm completely open. I'm not saying that as the chair. I'm saying that as a member of the commission. Like, I'm happy with negotiating on this one.
I like your idea of sending it back to staff and having staff work with the applicant and with some of the concerns that have been raised, some of the questions and some of the, you know, obviously I'm okay with how it looks with, you know, with the glazing, I think the additional glazing in
Yeah,
the
the
front
additional glazing.
will
Yeah.
change how it is. Maybe
Yeah.
if there's a little bit less monotone color scheme.
Yeah.
That might make it more palatable.
I think so. And I think if it were just glass, then we could probably put in a motion and say, hey, if you change the glass, we're good to go. But it's almost all four sides we want a little bit of a change on.
Right.
And so I think that we need to postpone this, send it back to staff, remand that and have it come back to us. That's my opinion.
Scott, how long would it take? I know these guys are up
Yeah.
against a deadline with the RDA funding, which I know all too well how important that is. So how long would something, if it has to come back? I mean, what are we looking at there?
It's up to them. We can put it back. The staff report's written, so we can put this back on 2 weeks from now, the agenda.
So for the city, it could come back very quickly.
Yeah, it's,
And does that ruin their RDA? I know it pushes it closer, but
so the RDA funds need to be expended by June 30 this year. So they are on a ticking clock for the auditor, state auditors, so that we expend all those funds, or anything that is at risk of not being expended, we're going to pull back and put into a capital project to just utilize those funds in the RDA area. So I doubt it. It depends on their construction cycle, but they would be able to purchase, invoice, buy materials and have it like in a lay down zone, holding zone. So I think, again, 2 weeks shouldn't affect it, but it's up to the architect and how long plans take to turn around.
Yeah,
then-
is that enough time? Because it's really 1 week and then on the agenda.
Yep.
Is that enough time for the architect to?
I don't know.
Do you
Change
mind,
things.
Chair, if we ask the,
yeah. You say, yeah,
yeah,
we
what's
can
your
get him to move it.
response?
Yeah. My brother could do it quickly. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think, to be clear, I mean, we probably should give them more clarity if that's what we end up asking. Are we asking for a slightly warmer color palette, more glazing, more variation? Those are the things I'm hearing in the conversation.
Yeah.
So
I'm don't hold the color palette on me. I didn't ever say color palette, but I think someone did.
I did.
Okay, good. Thank you, Phil. So I think that's right.
Mhm.
Now, is that a motion or do we motion to postpone?
Yes.
Is that what we do? Okay.
Chair, I'll move then that we postpone this to our next meeting.
Okay.
And instruct staff or ask staff to get together with the architect and have discussions about all of the items that we've brought up this evening.
Perfect.
That's specific enough, Scott?
That works. It's Ryan's item,
Ryan?
so
Ryan has.
You got all the notes down there?
He's taking
Yeah,
notes.
no, I'll work with Chad and then we'll have it ready by then.
Awesome.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Great. All right, then the vote is Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Swanson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. All right. Thank you. Oh. He's not there anymore.
Okay.
All right. We will move to the next, any public comments on anything that we have covered tonight. Okay. Remarks from the planning commissioners?
I don't have anything.
We've all spoken. Report from Community and Economic Development Director.
If you are at all interested, I would start tuning in on Mondays at noon to the Utah League of Cities and Towns Legislative Policy Committee meeting and just put it on in the background and listen. There's some very interesting legislation happening right now that will affect housing in the state of Utah and North Ogden that would make some of the projects that have come through with heavy public comment periods and some concerns eligible as administrative by right items. So it's worth looking at and
Say
reviewing.
tomorrow at noon?
They're Mondays.
Mondays.
They're
Monday
on
at
Mondays at noon. The city we've got voting members on there, so I watch each month. Councilmember Pulver watches, every Monday. John generally tries to see those and the mayor attends. And so we're watching and listening to those. We're making comments, but it's very interesting what's happening. And come the end of the legislative session, there will be an update for the city on what we need to do.
Do you have some Senate bill or House bill numbers?
Yep.
That we could look up and go read?
Yeah, so
House Bill 184.
yep.
Is that the big one?
That's the big
Yeah.
one.
And it's Representative
54?
Ward.
184.
Well, I figured it would be Representative Ward, yeah.
It's Ward and Senator Fillmore's bill. And it is very, very interesting. It's small lots and starter home amendments. And it puts some very tight, the Utah League of Cities and Towns has opposed this bill. They've asked their membership to reach out and oppose it. And that's not a political statement. That's just from ULCT. So I would read it for yourselves and as administrators of the city's code, determine what's good, bad, or indifferent. But it puts some really tight timeframes on staff, some review timeframes, and if review timeframes are missed, it obligates the city to accept the application. So it's a really interesting one.
Is that the only item or are there others that were?
There's
Monitoring.
there's quite a few actually. We have a handful. The easiest way to do it is ulct.org and then click on Advocacy and Legislative Policy Committee. And then under Advocacy, there's also the bill tracker. And you can click on the bill tracker for 2026 and they have their support, neutral, or opposed on the bill. And they're organized just by bill number, so not like filing date. There have been over 700 bills filed already. It's like 746 and climbing, 740 and climbing. So you could see the opposed bills, but they're generally labeled. So there's housing, land use, business licensing bills, and they run through anything that affects local government. But this one is particularly interesting given what we've had going on. And then be prepared. We've just sent out public notice on the Randall property, which is the eastern one, 600 East, 2100 North next to Monroe, for the new developer who has put that property under contract, and we'll have a big public hearing again, I'm expecting.
Good. Speaking of public hearings, I meant to welcome the public and thank you for your attendance early on. So I appreciate you being here. I wanted to get that in before, I don't know why, but I just wanted to get it in right then. Any remarks from the city attorney?
Just by way of information, the police department's starting to do a coffee with a cop or coffee and a cop. I don't know, one of those things. It's actually tomorrow at Beans and Brew here locally. So if you need a coffee or a cop, then
Where they'll be.
bring on by 8 to 10.
This.
But it's a chance to kind of engage with the leadership and the frontline folks and express concerns and just get to know them a little better. So
It's great.
And
AM, I
participate.
assume.
yeah, 8 a.m. Yeah.
Nobody checked. Great.